I'm on a horse riding path. We'll see if any angry riders come up. If they appear. But it's not illegal to walk here and it's easy to step off the path. I mean, there was one angry small woman with a big horse one time came up like, hey, you can't walk there, this is a riding path. Yeah, whatever. So everything is like a cloud. Everything is like a cloud appearing and morphing. Cloud in the sky of lucidity. Clouds and mists and colors like a rainbow, like colors. Everything being empty and without substance, without independent me substance. And clouds include the so-called subjective appearances, including the sense of subjectivity as a separate character in the body in the world, or even as the body in the world of separate other subjects called other people, which are actually appearing as objects. But this is all due to mentations, empty mentations, which themselves are also like clouds passing and forming. And they're not separate clouds even. There's the air. There's like air, vapor, gas, which is kind of like a one thing and it's constantly morphing. And when clouds form, the clouds are not separate from the air. It's kind of like condensed air, but the context within which they actually appear, even within which the air appears, is space. And the space does not get modulated. There's no wind in space, or space is not affected by wind. Wind is kind of like well, it's air movement. In a way, it's modulated air. So but it's not space in this example. I don't know if there's like a space wind. Like according to science, there has been findings about space that space contains immense amount of energy. And on a quantum level, it might not be actually space. There might not be any space at all. But in this example, the lucid context, the lucid sky of awareness, within which these words are appearing, without which these words and the comprehension or the miscomprehension or incomprehension, without which that could not appear. There couldn't be incomprehension or comprehension if there wasn't this lucidity within which this show of intelligence is playing, or seeming to play out, seeming to form and move and dance like clouds in the sky. And the sky is not being affected. Usually you see horses here, but not this time around, it seems. I don't know where I should, or where would I want to walk. Not that there is a separate walker. Yeah, amazing clouds, by the way, that's why I mentioned the clouds. There was one, I might have attached it at the beginning of the video, or I'll attach it at the end of the video, but there was a massive very unusual looking cloud. It seemed to have this kind of like a veil or like a dome like formation in front of it, and it looked like it was like a huge cumulus cloud. It looked like it might have been like over 10 kilometers wide, but the size doesn't show on the video. It looked way different with 2 eyes in this environment. But I hope there's something that the video can convey about the amazingness of the cloud. It was really amazing looking, very unusual looking too. So I've seen a couple of frogs, a little bit bigger ones this summer, so I gotta be careful not to step on any. Not in this area, but I mean, of course there are frogs here too, and toads and stuff. So everything is like a cloud or clouds, and the clouds are part of their show on a screen of awareness, you could say, like a movie screen, and there's nothing else than the movie screen, self-lit movie screen, and the context is the screen in a way. So even when light, meaning even when all the sensory perception and thought processes, which is all empty of self, empty of real independent separate existence, even when all that ends and there's nothing to see, this context, which is the lucid sky or the screen, appears. The awareness, so-called awareness, the way I use this term conventionally speaking, not that there is a speaker, awareness remains as awareness with or without objects to see or to be aware of. So that is called awareness, that is hearing these words, and to which comprehension or incomprehension is appearing. We have birds here, little birds. Even when those are appearing, this awareness remains, enables everything to appear. And even when every apparent thing, so-called thing, ends and is not appearing, that is the context for the show of awareness. This does not disappear. So this context is actually, you could say it's like absolute, and it remains even when so-called awareness show ends. Even when awareness ends, the context remains. But it's not a self, but maybe it could be said that it's not aware of itself anymore when there's nothing to be aware of, when everything ends, when all the thought processes and the sense of I am. The sense of I am is maybe kind of a reflection or something, I don't know, but these are just words right now, concepts relating to mental processes, intelligence and memory and stuff like that. So eyesight, like seeing, has to do with biology and biochemical electric reactions. so brain activity and stuff like that. And that is part of the show on the screen. But the screen remains as a screen even when the show ends and the lights go out. There's still it doesn't affect the screen whether or not there is stuff appearing to go on. And also the sensory organs and all the perceptions having to do with the sensory organs, including actually the thought processes, which are actually empty. They're part of the show. And there could be a seeming war going on, or fire, or a storm, and that doesn't affect the screen. So the awareness that is hearing these words is not affected by whatever is seeming to appear. And all the talk that seems to refer to me and mine, like I'm here, I'm being affected, I'm being tortured, for example, or I'm being pleasured or something. Those are just empty concepts, and there's nothing in there. The words that seem to refer to me and mine, they don't actually point to anything. There's no me and mine. The words, the concepts, they're automatic and spontaneous and without self. And who is this being talked to or pointed to? Well, basically, nobody's even asking that. Nobody's even asking that question. There's no question about it. I'm not trying to lecture people by force, so I'm not gonna go follow that person. So I took this smaller route. I can talk in peace, apparently. And I'm not harassing anybody else with concepts. Anybody else who doesn't want to hear this. Whoa. I got a big worm here. All this just seems to be. And who is this that has realized that everything is ongoing, seeming ongoing flow without a self? This talking is also empty, and this so-called apparent realization is also empty of realizer. It's that empty, everything. It's that just void. And void is even a void is just another concept, empty concept that doesn't ultimately really mean anything for anyone. And nothing is going anywhere. There's nowhere to go to, or there's everywhere to go to. But that going is just an empty show on the screen. There's no way out. But is there anyone that needs a way out? Is there anyone that is in somewhere that it wants to get out? Those are just more concepts, empty, meaningless. And even the concept of meaning loses meaning. So there's no lack of meaning. But there's also no meaning. Because that's just more apparent thought activity. So this is a city forest where I am right now, so there seem to be a few people around, dog walkers and stuff. I'm also looking for mushrooms. It's been raining a little bit, so, and it's starting to be the season that you can start to find those. And blueberries as well. They're starting to be ready. And the forest strawberries too. There's a cool, this is actually pretty cool. There's a bow shooting range here ahead. I think they might appear. So what is, like, there is a kind of an end though, but there's no mental conclusion that can be arrived at ultimately, because it becomes like a self-perpetuating loop. The thoughts just start circling behind each other in a way, trying to find an end point, or trying to land to an end point where they stop appearing. But thoughts can just stop appearing, there's nothing to it. And the actual end is actually a concept, but there appears to be that stuff has appeared to go on as a separate world and a separate experiencer of the world. And there isn't really a dream. There hasn't really been a dream, because that's also just a concept based on memory. And what is memory? Is memory really verifiable? There's a lot of talk about memory, and there's a lot of seeming evidence about memory, but that doesn't make it real. There can be a lot of seeming evidence about memory in a dream too, which is constructed out of memories and comprehension though. So this is the aforementioned loop, thought loop. Thoughts start to kind of vortexing around themselves in a way. This is the bow range. What was I saying? But it does kind of appear that there can be agitation based on a idea and sense and seeming reality of separation and separate me in a separate world, and that can seemingly end, and there can then seemingly be so-called peace. But of course this can be pointed out that if there is peace, there's agitation too, because it's again the concept, the conceptual idealistic or idea world comes with opposites. If there's peace, there's agitation and war. If there's anything, heaven, there's hell. If there's God, there's the opposite of God, or the devil. Although the God pointer can actually it can kind of contain both the good and the bad, and the dark and the light, and devil being just one expression of divine reality, or one side of God in a way. But even that is just empty dreaming. If there is seen to be a God that is real, then there's the seer or the believer in it, which never actually exists. It's a false thing based on mentations and energy movements, and seemingly creating the seeming subject to which everything appears, who is holding beliefs, ideas and opinions, and fears devil and God maybe, and hopes for heaven. All that is empty, without an owner, without a believer. There's no believer, so how can there be belief? When it's clear that there's no believer, how can there be belief? Belief is also, there might maybe appear relating to worldly matters, but they don't have any meaning. They can even appear when there's no sense of separation, but they've lost their reality. Beliefs have lost their reality and importance and meaning. So, I don't know, is it unfortunate that there's nobody here shooting at the targets? Usually there are people here. Would have been nice to show this. I mean, it would have been nice to show this activity here, but no can do. So this is quite near the city center actually. And yeah, Helsinki does have like 1 million people or a little bit less living here. I mean, why don't I just walk from here then? Since there's nobody here. Is that a military helicopter? No, it's these are the border guards, or whatever you call those in English. Border guards, choppa. But the clouds have been so freaking cool. Oh, that's an eagle up there. Not a hawk, that's an eagle. I don't know. Can you see it on the video? That might be the sea eagle, or is it ocean eagle in Finnish? One of the largest air predators in the world when it comes to the wingspan. There is an island that they nest on. There's an island actually near my home. I've seen them from my window at times, like quite rarely though. They're not that usual a sight. I don't know if it's visible on the camera, so, and I don't think it's coming any closer. Ocean eagle or sea eagle. I tend to forget which one it is. Which one is the official name? Everything is like a dream, but there's like or everything is a dream, but there is a kind of a continuation from one micro moment to the next. There appears to be, and more like a stable coherence that translates into the sense of, or into like a apparent time and apparent history in a different way than in night dreams. So these words are not referring to this so-called life as a night dream, but it doesn't mean that it's not a dream nonetheless. Like, it's not in principle ultimately any different from a night dream either, in the sense that this is not really real and there's nobody in here as a separate character or characters. But a positive assertion like that doesn't really cut it. It somehow becomes evident when the sense of self just drops, and that cannot be put into words really. And there's ultimately no point in trying to convince anybody of the unreality of the world, or of the dream-like nature of the world. Like, who would be trying to do it, and why, and for who? Look at this little, what is this? Oh, look at that. I don't know if the focusing is good here. Strange bugs. I haven't seen these. I know the name, it's Luda, but usually these are brown or green. I haven't seen this kind of a coloring before. I guess this dream life can kind of also morph in a way. might be holographic in a sense. There might suddenly be like a totally new history that seems like it's always been, but if this is all holographic, then the history can change a million times, and the dream characters wouldn't know. There would be the show of a dream character seeing, experiencing, thinking and feeling that this one solid history has always been there. But who knows? Maybe it can be somehow noticed, but I don't know if it really matters whether it is noticed or not, or I don't even know if it's actually the case. It's emptier than that. But I'm not some kind of a authority on this, or like a higher authority or anything. I'm not trying to feed any beliefs. Just this is kind of like apparent wordplay and intelligence play. And there's somehow awareness that is not mixed in with these words and this apparent activity of talking and trying to figure out what to say. And I mean, there's no one there anyway doing that. But the awareness, there's somehow like a overseeing that nobody's doing, but there's like overhearing these words. There's like a witnessing of this speaking. And the witnessing, it's not coupled with a sense of ownership or doership. It's something else. But it's not a thing that can be seen, and it's not actually anything else, like other or anything. It's impossible to put into words, but when it's evident, it's evident. So mushrooms, haven't seen the ones that I'm looking for. We got more birds here, little ones. These seem to be, is this peippo in Finnish? These don't seem to be too, these don't seem to be too scared. They let one pretty close, usually, it seems. And it's not about trying to get to some bliss or even trying to get to some death. There's just seeing that trying to get is substanceless and without a self, and it's meaningless. And it actually keeps up the sense that there is someone there, as long as there seems to be the show of someone trying to get rid of oneself, for example, in a spiritual or psychological sense. That only perpetuates the seeming illusion that there actually is someone there as a separate character that could be gotten rid of. There isn't, of course. And ultimately, how is that also not just an empty show? So it's not even an illusion that is being perpetuated then. It's just a tape or a CD or like a video cassette or something playing out on its own. And it seems to last as long as it seems to last, without any controller behind it, without any doer behind or inside it or anywhere. So in that sense, even these words are like a tape playing out. No one is, and the sense that there is somebody talking and choosing what to say and holding concentration and holding attention in a certain theme. There are blueberries here, by the way. I should probably eat these. Yeah, so even that, oh, there's also a hare, a rabbit. Didn't notice it at first. So even that is kind of like a tape playing out, but maybe it's actually the best. It's put the best in Forrest Gump, maybe. Like, is everything like the movie ends? This is a spoiler if you haven't seen. It's actually probably the best movie that I've ever seen. My favorite movie, Forrest Gump. It ends with the question: is there predestination, or are we all just like a feather floating in the wind, or a leaf being blown in the wind? And then it's not really an answer. It's kind of almost like another question, but the answer was like, well, maybe it's both. Maybe there's like a predestination and floating in the wind, and it cannot really be said which it is and how it really is. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there can be any conclusion ultimately. Who is making these conclusions anyway? Like the words appeared that this is like a tape that is just playing out these words also. Literally, it is because you're probably watching this on YouTube, and that's a recording. And this is not a real person's voice. It's just a digital reconstruction of a biological body's noise. So and there's no person on the screen. There's just encoding, making it seem like there's a person form on the screen in the YouTube videos. There are never any people in videos or in recordings, but maybe life is the same. But even when these thoughts appear, or these ideas appear to appear about life being like a recording playing out, who claims to know that? If there's any kind of a sense of holding this as a truth, that seems to be a position and a belief, and a position and a belief it does indicate that there is an illusion of a believer there that is trying to somehow use this information to have a position or to get somewhere. Not that there's anyone doing it though, but I don't know. I don't actually know. This is again the kind of can become the apparent thought vortex where thought just starts to circle around itself like a dog chasing its tail or whatever. So maybe it's a good time to end.